Thank you so much, Devin, for joining us here at the Dwelling Show. I'm so excited to really dig in today. I'm just going to read a quick intro from Devan McClish. He's been a real estate investor for 3 years. He's done over 60 new build, two apartment buildings, and he does a ton of Airbnb. So totally, he has about 60 rental units. He's also been on the famous Bigger Pockets podcast. I got to mention that. He's doing a ton of direct mail, currently developing about 20 million in assets. I mean, Devin, you're just like awesome, amazing. I mean, I can just keep going and on and on, but I'm sure you do a way better job than I can. So just tell the Dwell listeners, what you're doing, what you're kind of working on right now.
Yeah, so right now, I mean, you kind of hit on it with the direct mail. I mean, we're sending out about 11,000 pieces of mail. I'm about to bump that up to 13,000 pieces of mail per month. I mean, that's the first thing you got to do. That's the lifeblood of my business, is having deals come in. From there, we're primarily developing. Land in Nashville is worth a lot more than the houses that sit on it most of the time. Developing a lot of those. We've got renovations that are coming in. We're getting into bigger multifamily stuff. I bought a 17 unit and a 25 unit. I got another 25 unit under contract, and chasing another 100 unit. So, I mean, that's something I'm starting to get into. You mentioned the short-term rentals, Airbnb. I've got 4 of those here in Nashville. We're also about to start a 4-unit Airbnb crash pad that we're going to build here in Nashville. It's going to be really cool. If you want to stay, it's only $250 a night. But yeah, I mean, Nashville being the #1 bachelor and bachelorette central hub of the United States right now, I mean, we're trying to take advantage of that. So, I mean, we're doing a little bit of everything. I mean, we're developing, we're rehabbing, we're buying rental units. And then as my business gets bigger and we grow, I'm transitioning more into the cash flow stuff. So that's where the apartments come in.
Oh, wow. I mean, there's just so much that we can really dig into, Devin. But I kind of want to go with a historical perspective. So before real estate, just kind of tell us what you were doing. Tell us what basically changed your mind, and why did you choose real estate out of, a bunch of other financial, I guess, investments that you can make. Why real estate, and what were you doing before?
Yeah, so before I got into full-time real estate investing, I was working at Office Max. I was making $8 an hour. I would sell the Epson 4630. I got a $10 spiff. I thought that was really cool. So I was making $64 a day, and I was like, man, this just sucks. Like there's got to be a lot more to life than this. And before that was during college. I met this guy who develops commercial real estate, and he was one of my good friend's dads, and he had this 100-acre farm with beach volleyball. We'd go play there every weekend with this 5,000 square foot house, really nice cars. I'm like, dude, what do you do? He's like, well, I'm an attorney, but that's not where all this comes from. Where all this comes from is owning the Office Depot, owning the Applebee's, repositioning the Walmart. And I was like, I don't even know what repositioning Walmart means, but that sounds cool. And I really liked real estate because it's a tangible thing that I can touch. Stocks. I've tried to get into that. I just don't never really understood that side of the financial world. I understand it. I know people have made a lot of money, but I like something I could see and I'm in complete control of. I mean, if I go buy a stock of Google, someone else is in control of that money. But if I go buy a quadplex, I'm in 100% control of that quad and the management of that quad and the performance of that quad. So that's what I liked about it, and that's why I chose real estate.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you basically met this guy who was an attorney, but then was doing his other stuff and was pretty living the life. And you thought, wow, if this guy's doing this, then I can. So what was that transition like for you, where you said, okay, I want to do this thing called real estate, still working at Office Max? How did you make that connection? Did you reach out to someone, or did you start just educating yourself? What did that path look like?
Yeah, so I started educating myself was the #1 thing. I started listening to podcasts. I listened to podcasts multiple times over. I tried to find any and all podcasts that I could, consume the hell out of that. Any book that I could get my hands on, business or real estate related, I also got my hand on that. Networking was huge. I didn't realize how little networking I was actually doing. And then I started, and then I met another guy who said, you need to meet, 3 to 5 people a week at least, and then you need to make an offer a day. And I was like, that's really what you got to do to be successful? He's like, yeah, otherwise you're just not going to last. And I didn't really realize that until I started doing it. I started seeing the results, and I was like, yeah, okay, this really works. And so now I advocate the same thing. You got to meet, you got to make an offer a day. You've got to meet at least 3 to 5 people a week, if not more. That could be phone conversation or go to local Starbucks or whatever. So, I really struggled with it for the years through college because I just did not take enough action. I thought I was taking enough action, but, it just wasn't happening. I mean, I was door knocking. I would door knock 100 homes. I thought that was a lot of, networking and branding myself and marketing myself. And that was really nothing, compared to the guy that was sending out 5,000 pieces of mail, and then once I got started, I was only sending out 500 to 1,000 pieces of mail. And I realized like this, I'm only getting like a couple deals a year, like that there's gotta be a faster way to scale this. And then I just set what I would imagine was an unattainable goal. And I think that's the issue with a lot of new people is they set a realistic goal, like 50,000 a year, 100,000 a year. I said, screw that. I'm going to make $500,000 first year, and I just put it up there and I was like, all right, how many pieces of mail do I need to send out to make $500,000? It was a lot of mail. And then I had to figure out, how to send out that much mail. So that's where it starts is you got to set a very high goal, almost to what you think is unattainable, but the mind will go a lot farther than what you think it will. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is awesome. This is really interesting. So you decided, okay, I'm going to change my, I guess, networking strategy. Instead of knocking on doors, I'm going to just blow out, direct mail as many as I can. I've got my goal now set at 1 million. What was your first deal like? How did you find it? If there was a story behind it, let us know.
Yeah.
And how did that first deal go?
So the first deal, I actually got 3 simultaneously after I started bumping all that up. So I went from sending 500 pieces a month to 2,000 a month. I was just like, I got a $2,500 limit on my credit card. Sounds good to me. So I just sent out 2,000 pieces of mail, and I got 3 deals. I got 2 off the mail and 1 off the networking. I got a quad, a wholesale, and actually a rehab. So I had all 3 come in, and I just figured out how to fund all the quad and the rehab, and then I just wholesaled that other property, which took 4 months to finally wholesale. So I had to get the woman out. It was a seller from Detroit, Michigan, of all places, who had a relative living there for 10 years, never paid rent, never paid utilities, never paid property taxes, didn't pay insurance. They literally were living for free in this house. And then I was the guy who had to knock on the door and say, hey, you have 30 days to leave, and it was not in a very good area. So you can imagine, walking up to a door and telling somebody who's been living for free for 10 years, it's time to leave, So I got that, and I got the rehab off of direct mail. So
okay, so let's dig a little bit deeper into the quad. I'm a multifamily guy, so do you have the numbers on those? How did that go? And then we can jump to the rehab.
Yeah, so the quad, I bought it through a wholesaler. 105,000 was the purchase price. We put 40,000 into it. That was about double what I originally anticipated.
As usual.
So we put 145,000 into this thing. It was me and my mom. I partnered with my mom on this, and it rents for $2,800 a month, and that's what it's been renting for the past 2 years. So
okay, so that's like definitely more than the 1% LTV rent to value ratio for sure.
Yeah, that was a 2%er. I mean, that's what I was looking for when I was going to buy a rental, especially my first one. And any new person, buy the 2%. Don't buy the 1%.
Wow, awesome. What about the rehab? So you were kind of new in this game. You got this rehab. What did you get a general contractor? How did that go?
Yeah. So I had to scramble to find a general contractor. I had it under contract. I also had to scramble to find the money. We ended up getting a line of credit through a bank. So what we did is we leveraged up the home equity line in my mom's house to get the line of credit. So we used that. It was 155 purchase. We ended up putting Man, it was about not 85 to 90 grand in this thing.
Oh,
Where the
wow.
original, so the original budget was 60. I ended up getting ripped by the contractor. So he told me to pay the electrician directly. He sent me a bill for 5 grand. I called the electrician and he said the bill's not 5 grand, it's 1,500. So they were skimming money. Yeah. So they were skimming. Yeah. Always ask for the receipts, people. Always ask for the receipts. That's one thing I did not do. It took very long. It took 7 months to renovate the thing, which is absolutely absurd. And then the market was changing just a little bit. We listed it on Halloween. So it took another 4 months to sell. I mean, we were a year into that thing.
Wow.
I made $6,240.
Divided by 12. Yeah, that's, yeah. That's like 500 a month. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't use a general contractor now. I actually became a general contractor, and we have a project manager that runs all of our stuff. The thing I don't like about general contractors is you are not in control of your project. The general contractor is in control of the project. And there's people that are like, well, I could fire him at any time and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, not really. I mean, how many people can really fire somebody and have somebody step in the next day, and somebody that's going to be willing to warrant the work of a previous contractor that you fired? That's right. So that's why we got a project manager in place. So I kind of learned from that. We got a project manager in place that does all of our renovations for us, so now everything is internalized.
Awesome. So I've got a couple of things I definitely want to touch on. So a big order for new investors is, where should I get the money from? So you mentioned your mom helped you. So I guess we can say your mom was technically your partner. How did that go? I mean, what did you say to your mom, and how did she buy into, your dream?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of took a while for me to convince her, but once she actually got fired from her job, she realized, okay, this money's not going to go as far as I thought it was, and so I was like, this is the vehicle that we need to use. I don't partner with her on everything, but the way to pitch an investor is just, you got to look at the numbers. You got to be really conservative with your numbers, very detailed. Anytime I ask for money from anybody, including my mom, there's comps, video walkthrough, pictures, scope of work, line by line item. Trim is going to cost X, door is going to cost X, paint, interior, exterior is going to cost X, flooring this, the mailbox is going to be, everything down to that little line item. That's how you get somebody to invest in your deal. It's not, hey, the rehab's going to be around 85,000. Well, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
85,000. That doesn't tell me anything. Are the comps true comps? So if you can do that and say, this is how I'm going to protect your money, then people will feel comfortable giving you money. As long as you have a deal, you can find money. There's a lot more money out there than people think. I always love this question because I walk into local RIA meetings and I say, there's always that question, like, where are you getting all this money? And I say, watch this. And I just ask everybody in the room, put your hand up. How many people have $100,000 to invest right now? More than 10 always put their hand up. And I'm like, dude, there's $1 million in the room, but let's keep going. How many have 200? How many have 300? How many have 400? The most anybody ever had sitting in the room was $500,000. I think the guy had more. He just did, he just wanted to put his hand down at that point. So there's money in the room always. You just got to get to know these people. That's where the networking comes in.
Wow, that is so awesome. I've never ever thought of it that way. The way you kind of just basically just analyze that. I think that's huge. So the other thing is, people say, well, it's hard to get a general contractor, right? And you basically, I mean, I just love what you did. I'm just going to go get the license, right? And just be a licensed GC. So what does that process look like?
It's the same thing as an agent. It's I mean, you just go, you study for, you take class, you study, you take the test, you pass the test, and you submit a personal financial statement, and then they give you a license max. So our license max as a company, I think, is $500,000. So we cannot pull a permit for any job that's going to cost more than $500,000, right? That's a very low entry level. I think the smallest one is about $100,000. So you can do that, and then guess what? You could partner with somebody else who has stronger financials to get a higher license, but if it's $100,000 license, there's a lot of renovations that you can do with that, right? So if you bought a multifamily and you pulled a permit for, $10,000 a door and it was quad, that's $40,000. You can easily do that. You save the 20%. And then the other thing I don't get with people is like, if they do end up, here's the thing, you got to think like a big business. You're not forever going to use a general contractor. It doesn't make any sense. It's like hiring any outside designer, which we don't have anymore. 2,500 house. Well, we're building 77 homes right now. That's 150,000 a year. So I said, screw that. I'm going to hire that designer in-house for 40 grand a year as a salary. So think like a big business. Think like you're renovating 50 homes a year. Would we pay 20% to a general contractor, or would we just hire an internal project manager for 40,000 a year with bonuses, right? It makes all the sense in the world, and it frees up all your time, and you're in control of the project. That's the main thing.
Awesome. Okay. So we've talked about the quad. Now we kind of briefly mentioned the rehab. So let's kind of leapfrog, right? So you were building about, what you said, 60 new builds? Like how did you make that? Of course you have your GC license, so you're definitely getting a little bit hands-on, with the assets and, construction. But how did you make that leap? And did you partner with another construction company?
Yeah. So again, it comes back to finding the deal, right? So that's something I was very good at. We're sending out a lot of mails, getting a lot of deals. New construction is a big thing in Nashville. I was getting outpaced by, as a rehabber, I was getting outbid by all the developers. So I just switched. I was forced into that field if I wanted to still compete in Nashville. So I learned that game really quickly. I got other general contractors to help me with that. I would hire them, always have at least 3. If you go that route, always have at least 3, and so I'd find the deal and I would find the money. And here's the thing about new construction that people, it's very easy to scale. Why? Because the bank likes new construction. It's very calculated, right? There's a budget sheet that's line itemed. It's very easy to tell, like, this is what the roof's going to cost based on the set of plans, right? So here's the thing. It's not only borrowing money, because a lot of times we tear one down, build up 2. Well, that construction of 2 houses costs 450 grand. There's not a lot of people that have $500,000 laying around. The bank will loan 85% loan to cost. Okay. So the investor's only got to have 15% in the deal. And I'm borrowing not only their money, but I'm borrowing your debt service. Okay. So you got to think about that too. You're not only borrowing the investor's money, you're borrowing the investor's debt service. And by doing that, I only needed $50,000 to $100,000 of the investor's money plus their debt service. And many investors can carry a lot more debt service. So I was able to scale that extremely quickly by having the system in place for finding the deal already. And then I just realized how much margin was in the new construction. And so I just put that together by going out and finding partners who were interested in a certain return on their investment.
So that's awesome. I really like that. So what would you say is the proportion of basically just raw land to, the deals that you find in which you have to demo the house, then kind of build again?
If it's raw dirt and you're new and you've never done it, don't do it. 50% of the lots that have come to us that's raw land, there's usually a problem with it. There's a reason it's vacant. Okay. There's sewer lines, there's water lines, there's all that kinds of stuff that minimizes the building envelope that you have and could quickly ruin a deal really, really fast. Most of what we do is we're infill new construction. So we're in the urban core of Nashville. We're taking down these old 800 square foot homes and rebuilding them, from the ground up. If there's a house already there, all the sewer connections are there, all the water connections are there, the gas lines are there. So you don't have to do that infrastructure work. And I would advise you to not do the infrastructure work if you can.
Right. Okay. So kind of shift from development to kind of multifamily apartment buildings investing. So, it looks like you've got, kind of technical know-how in rehabbing, construction, but going to kind of multifamily, when you talk about 100-unit deal, for example, that's requires some kind of different skill set. So how was that transition like for you, and how, I guess, easy was it for you to make that decision?
Yeah, honestly, I love it. It's based on income, right? So it's just, every time I go to sell a home or sell a new construction home, I've always got to look like, oh, what's my neighbor selling for? And I hate that. So I always look at the asset individually. If you look at the quad, it's very easy to analyze, okay, this is the amount of cash flow that I'm looking for per door, or this is the amount of value add So a lot of people get stuck on cap rates. I hate cap rates. Look at the forced appreciation, right? Or how much, what's your internal rate of return? I mean, we bought a 25 unit apartment complex for 1.5 million. The next highest offer was 1.25. However, I came to closing with $12,300. The bank took $1 million first position. Seller carried back $500,000 second position at 2% interest, right?
Wow.
So now I have nothing in the deal. Yeah, it breaks even right now, but we have the opportunity, and we're going to. I know this market very well. We're going to take the gross income from 198 to 248 over the next 12 months. So there's a lot of that value add. Now I've created all of that appreciation. I've created all of that cash flow, and I've got nothing in the deal. So don't get stuck on cap rates. That's the biggest thing with multifamily. Look at the value add and look at the internal rate of return. I mean, the seller's going to sell it to you and you don't have any money in the deal. Why would you not take that?
Wow, I can just hear some of our dual listeners just screaming and shouting oh my God, how did you manage to buy, that kind of building with so little money down or even none at all? I mean, where did you find the deal and how did that conversation with the owner go?
Yeah. So here's the thing I love about owner financing in this market right now, right? So most people say, oh, the market's too hot. I can't find any deals. I love it. I love it because the seller's greed, take advantage of the seller's greed with owner financing. Okay. So we always make two offers. We always make a cash offer. We always make an owner finance offer. Always make two offers. Always, always, always. You could scale it down to single family. I mean, the very first one I ever did, I offered the guy $30,000 cash or $50,500 a month for 100 months, 0 interest, right, and 0 down. So he immediately said, "I'm going to take the more money," and they always do. They always do. This guy was just stuck. He was like, "I want 1.5. It's worth 1.5." I said, "Yes, okay, fine. It's worth 1.5." At these terms, and I started with 0 interest, and he was like, "Man, I just can't do 0 interest, but I can do 2% interest." I was like, "Deal," because there's no bank there's nowhere in the world you can get 2% interest.
Right.
Yeah, so it's okay to overpay if you get better terms. Here's the thing: when you get terms in owner financing, purchase price is the most irrelevant term in the contract. It just is. I bought another 17 unit. I overpaid by $175K. The reason I know that is one of my good friends was an ex-bidder. He was at 600. I came in at 775, which is what the guy wanted. And you got to listen to sellers, right? Give them what they want. This guy was like, I just want 770. I got to have 7075. I don't know why he needed that, but that's just what he wanted. I put 150,000 down based on a refinance that we did previously. So that was with equity in another property. And he carried back the additional, it was about 82% of the financing. He carried back 82% of the financing at 0% interest for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Overpay and get your terms. And 0 interest is powerful. Why? I'm paying that guy $4,500 a month. That's over $60,000 a year that I'm getting in equity pay down. So whenever that balloon comes, I'm going to have, I'm going to have almost all of it paid off.
Wow. And typically, would you exit then, kind of get the seller to exit the deal by getting a refi?
Yeah, absolutely. I would not sell. You don't become truly wealthy by selling your properties. And if you sell your properties, Uncle Sam takes his cut. So I'd rather refinance debt. IRS doesn't tax debt. So whenever I refinance, I've already done the math. It was $296,000 is what I'm going to be able to pull out. So I'm going to pay myself $296,000. And that's all tax free.
Right. Awesome. Wow. So this deal, did you have any brokers involved? Because usually, people talk about the broker commissions, or was it just a direct find from you?
No. So the 25 unit was on the MLS. I'm an agent. And I just found it. I knew it was overpriced, but I really liked the complex. I love the location, and I just made the owner finance offer, and he accepted after a lot of back and forth. The 17 unit that came through a wholesaler. So a wholesaler who was sending out mail for single family homes, the guy called him and said, "Yeah, you sent mail asking to buy this property, which I'm not really interested in selling right now. However, I have this 17 unit building." Which is why always ask sellers, do you have anything else you want to sell? 80% of the real estate's owned by 20% of the people. Always ask. My best deals have come by asking that one question, Wow. So, and then there's this 24 unit we're chasing now. Got that through a wholesaler who got that through direct mail. That's also another zero interest finance deal. Okay. Direct mail, wholesale. That's your network. Your network is your net worth. That's the end of it.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we could talk for days, right? There's a lot going on. But of course, we don't have the luxury of time, right? So you've got all these activities going on, right? So what does the future look like for Devan? Like, what else are you kind of looking to do in the next, I don't know, say 5, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, really looking into cash flow stuff. So renovating, it's sexy, but you don't get paid for 6 months. Building homes, it's sexy, you don't get paid for a year. There's some projects that we still have going on, and I'm like, when am I going to get paid? And that's just the way it is. The things that I really want to get into, I paid hard money lenders so much freaking money, 15%, 3 points. I mean, it's like, I would like to start a hard money fund is one thing I'd like to do. Multifamily, I really like multifamily. However, it's not my favorite. Storage is really where I want to get to. No tenants, no toilets, no trash, no plumbing, just boxes. I really like storage. So I'm looking to get into that more cash flow heavy space. I love Airbnb. I honestly think that industry is going to destroy the hotel industry forever. So I would get into that now if you can. If you're in if you're in Atlanta, if you're in Nashville, if you're in New Orleans, I mean, you can cash flow. I mean, we have one house that rents out for $1,500 a night. Where do you get that? Some people don't even get that per month, right?
Wow.
So the thing brings in $12,000 a month. Where do you get that? You only need 10 of those to live very comfortably. So
wow.
Yeah. And it doesn't change the debt service. I mean, you can bring in as much money as you want. I would, if I were new people who are looking to accelerate cash flow, I would look into short-term rentals.
Awesome. All right. So now we basically move into the quick round. It's going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready?
Yep.
Cool. What makes Devan McClish unique? What has made you and successful that the other guy or the other girl just doesn't have? What's that unique trait?
2 things. I'm a deal finder. I'm not a rehabber. I'm not a builder. I'm not a landlord. I'm a deal finder. Without the deal, I'm not any of those things. And people who say I'm a rehabber, no, you're not. No, you're not. If you don't have a deal, you are not a rehabber. You cannot rehab homes. So I'm a deal finder. That's number 1. Number 2 is I've figured out financing. Okay. Owner financing, bank financing. Stop buying rentals with bank financing. Buy it with hard money and then refinance. Okay. It is loan to value on the refinance. It's loan to cost on the purchase, which means you're putting 20% down. Okay. Wow. We don't ever buy rentals with any down payments. That is my goal. I'm not getting into any rentals with down payments. Screw that. I don't want my money deployed. That's why the bank's there. So I'm a deal finder. I figured out financing, especially with the owner financing. That's a way to really accelerate your career and your success in real estate. Use the owner financing.
Awesome. What was the last book that you read, and what did you learn from that book?
Man, I'm going to name 2. So these go in tandem. Too Big to Fail and The Big Short. Love them both.
Oh, I saw the movie. Yeah, that's a really good movie.
The book's so much better. Man, it's the difference in being an investor and a speculator. I mean, you look at all these people who are just speculating in the market. You really got to, once I saw that, I was like, man, I really need to create even bigger margins than what I was getting. So we were taking, deals in new construction where we were looking for $100,000 margins for a double build. So it's 50,000 a house. I'm now looking for 150 because at some point, if this market corrects, I want to be the investor. I don't want to be the speculator. I want to be able to unload my property. Cause that's where people get, I mean, I now I had a conversation with my banker about a month ago. She said, Devan, you bring me the highest margin deals out of anybody. And I'm like, what? I mean, there's an end to this at some point, and I don't want to be caught holding the bag where I can't sell my homes, you
Right.
know. So it's the difference of being an investor and a speculator, and those are big distinctions.
Absolutely, absolutely. Last question. So, you've got all this activity going. What do you actually do for fun? What do you do to kind of blow some steam?
I go to the lake. I go to concerts. I'm going to a concert this weekend down in Atlanta. I love concerts. I
Nice.
just like I love that live experience. I'm starting to go more places. I'm traveling more. That's the other thing too. I was like, I don't want to make $100,000 a year. I can only go on one vacation a year. Screw that. I want to make $1 million a year and go on vacation once a month. So I want to be able to go see all this stuff, be able to have the money that's there. So I like traveling. I like playing guitar. We go to the lake. I like movies. I like shows. I don't, I kind of watch them while I'm working. Game of Thrones was on last night while I was analyzing
Love
a deal, So I'm just a normal person, man, but I just like property. So
I can relate. I can totally relate. Devin, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. I've just learned so much and my mind is blown. Can't wait to hear back from you and have you back on the show. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right.